This is a podcast all about Bears. You either cheering for this team or just pulling your hair. I like to take a minute, just sit right back and tell you how I became the #1 Bears fan.
That boy is Benny Hunter.
Cake on the mic, cake on the mic, cake on the mic, cake on the mic. People, this the intro. Sacramento, California, born and raised. In Antelope is where I spend most of my days. Talk bad about my team, you must be a clown. This is Keek on the mic, so you know you better bear down. Bear down, bear down.
Hey, what's going on, Bears fans? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keek on the Mic, the podcast all about the Chicago Bears. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. So, on today's episode of Keek on the Mic, it's a pretty interesting one, to be quite honest with you guys, because a two-time Super Bowl champion says that Luke Getsy can't fix Justin Fields' biggest issue, and I'll go deeper into that, what I just said, in a little bit. Everyone knew, all Bears fans knew, everyone in the NFL knew that going into this offseason, the Bears' main concern was trying to find the right guy to develop Justin Fields. A coach that plays to Justin Fields' strengths, right? Obviously, the Chicago Bears opted to hire Matt Eberflus, the defensive coordinator for the Colts. Then it was Eberflus' job to get his next offensive coordinator. They hired Luke Getsy from the Green Bay Packers. And the arrival of Luke Getsy, for the most part, has been a positive one. Most Bears fans, including myself, are super excited about the move because we feel that this young coach with a very extensive background can finally utilize Justin Fields' strengths and capabilities as a quarterback. RPO, right? Moving pockets, play action, all that good stuff. Obviously, when you look at Luke Getsy, he comes from multiple different backgrounds. One being an RPO-heavy system under a really good college head coach in Joe Moorhead. And obviously in Green Bay, learning the Shanahan-style outside zone offense. So a lot of Bears fans, including myself, think that in combining these two different offenses will help Justin Fields get to the next level, and that Luke Getsy will, in fact, play to Justin Fields' strengths. So we should be optimistic on what Luke Getsy will be able to do for Justin Fields, and that's how most people feel around the NFL. Even though Bears fans, including myself, are optimistic, though, about Luke Getsy and what he's going to do for Justin Fields, not everyone is convinced, and that brings me to my main point of today's podcast. Two-time Super Bowl champion and sports analyst Booger McFarland believes that the best QBs still live and die from the pocket, and feels that the athleticism is nice and is a strong asset, but will eventually need to stand behind his line and deliver the ball in a big moment. This is where McFarland feels that Fields struggled and needs to get better if he wants to be great. Man, so many things going on in that one statement from Booger McFarland. Well-respected guy, right? Two-time Super Bowl champion on the defensive side, right? Sports analyst, gives his opinions. No, I'm not mad at this take. But when he says that Justin Fields needs to live and die by the pocket, it's a fair assessment. But my rebuttal to Booger McFarland is, does Kyler Murray live and die in the pocket? Does Lamar Jackson live and die in the pocket? I think what Booger McFarland is kind of forgetting in today's NFL is quarterbacks don't really live and die in the pocket anymore. Most quarterbacks are athletic. They have moving pockets, RPOs, play actions, right? There's not really a lot of quarterbacks that live and die in the pocket. Is it important? Yes, it is very important to be able to sit in the pocket at some moments and make some big throws, which when you look at it, Justin Fields did do that. I look at the Pittsburgh Steelers game, for example, where he was taking massive shots, but still delivering strikes down the field. One to Cole Kmet, one to Jimmy Graham, if you remember that game against the Steelers. Absolutely dimes from Justin Fields as he lived and died in the pocket. Another thing that I noticed from this statement is he wants Justin Fields to live and die in the pocket. He believes that philosophy for quarterbacks. But you have to have a good offensive line to be able to do that. And like I said, I'm not mad about this assessment. he's absolutely right. There has to be moments where maybe you do have to sit in the pocket and take some shots and be able to make those big-time throws. But one of the knacks on Justin Fields, and I think this is where Booger McFarland is getting at, is that sometimes Justin Fields has a tendency to hold the ball too long. And instead of going to his next progression, he waits for his receivers to get open. That leads to him to turnovers or getting sacked or fumbles, whatever you want to say about Justin Fields. Sometimes he holds the ball too long. But then I go back and say, but we have to realize, and this is what I would tell Booger McFarland or any doubters about Justin Fields. We cannot forget about the amount of pressure Justin Fields was under. And what I mean by pressure is that his offensive line was bad. Check this out, Bears fans. I just want to throw this stat out here for you guys. Fields was pressured on 27.3% of his dropbacks in 2021. That was the 5th most in the NFL. Absolutely ridiculous. To add to that, just 15 of those pressures were on his own decision-making. The rest was poor protection. We already know this. Ryan Poles has told us this. The offensive line for the Chicago Bears is the weak point of the team. Something that needs to be improved is the offensive line in order for Justin Fields to take the next step. No quarterback would have survived last season behind that Chicago Bears offensive line. Let's be honest. They were flat out bad in 2021. Check out these stats. In 12 games, Justin Fields was sacked 36 times, which is 10th most in NFL last season. And overall, the Bears offensive line allowed 58 sacks in 2021, which was the most in the NFL. So for me, before Booger McFarland or anybody that may doubt Justin Fields and think that he's already a bust, I want you to envision yourself standing in the pocket, just getting pummeled. We can all go back to that Cleveland Browns game where he got sacked 9 times. I want you guys to envision yourself, if you are a doubter of Justin Fields, envision yourself living and dying in the pocket when your offensive line is bad. Just envision yourself. Put a good offensive line in front of Justin Fields, and then let's judge him. Let's see what he does first with a good offensive line, because when I watched tape of last season, he didn't have one. Though I think Booger McFarland's take, I get it. It's a fair assessment. He holds the ball too long, right? You want quarterbacks to live and die in the pocket, but it's hard to live and die in the pocket when your offensive line sucks. Starting with center Sam Musfer getting blown up every single play. And I truthfully, and this is just my opinion, I truthfully have a hard time with analysts that have never played quarterback. Yes, Booger McFarland, 2-time Super Bowl champion, pretty good defensive player, right? But has he ever played quarterback in the NFL? No. And yes, he's a respectable guy, right? He has his right to his opinion. But none of us have played quarterback in the NFL, and none of us can really speak on what Justin Fields is going through when he does not have an offensive line. And I'm not trying to sit here and say that Justin Fields was perfect. He still has a whole lot to work on. But I do know this for sure. If Ryan Poles executes this offseason and improves this offensive line, I am almost 100% positive that Justin Fields will not only take that next step for the Chicago Bears, but will be our franchise quarterback for a long time. No quarterback can succeed without offensive line. It starts in the trenches, both on the offensive line and the defensive line. And that's why I'm having such a hard time when people say, well, Justin Fields is already a bust. Oh, he's no good. How can you say that? Try being in Justin Fields' shoes behind a terrible offensive line in 2021 and then come back and talk to me. And like I said, Justin Fields wasn't perfect, but please, Ryan Poles, and I know he's going to do this, but please get him offensive line and then let's judge. And that's what I would say to Booger McFarland or anyone that doubts Justin Fields. Let's see what he does after the team improves a little bit. And then let's give our final verdict on Justin Fields for the Chicago Bears. So like always, Bears fans, how do you guys feel about Booger McFarland's comments on Justin Fields? Let me know down below in the comment section. I would love to hear from you guys. And I'm going to end with this. Overall, I'm excited to see what Justin Fields in his second year with hopefully an improved offensive line, which I know Ryan Poles will address that. And with the OC in Getsy, that will finally play to his strengths. That's what I'm excited for. And I hope you guys as Bears fans are excited about that as well, because I am pretty sure that Justin Fields will have that second-year leap and will hopefully prove all those doubters wrong as soon as next season. But before I let you guys go, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Make sure you follow me on all my social media platforms. And make sure you share this episode of Geek on the Mic with every single Bears fan that you know. But other than that, I'll be back for an all-new Bears podcast right here on Geek on the Mic. Thanks, guys, and bear down.
You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't Geek on the Mic. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't Geek on the Mic. You can go and subscribe, cause I be on it right. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't Geek on the Mic.